All right, guys, welcome to the demo day for the 9th of April here. Yeah, so I'm just going to kick off pretty quick with a demo of Smoke Signal. This is the live version, so we're not demoing something on that staging interface now. This is actually live, and yeah, and then we'll just talk about some of the other updates that have been going on. So let me go ahead and start sharing. So there's a few changes. I mean, one change is that these titles are more emphasized, which is something we wanted to get done before kicking up the marketing budget, which we have since done. And then another change is if you go to, let's say this one, this guy's helping for, oh, that's another thing. We have these breadcrumbs now. So if I go now and click down to this, you'll see the breadcrumbs here showing where I am. It makes it way easier to navigate around. So you can see I'm in the topic of sovereign something, and then and it can be made clear what these actually are, but these are just replies.
Okay.
Anyway, let me just connect my wallet here. And the other big change that I'm quite happy with is when you reply, it's now an inline reply. So
Sweet.
yeah, really, really nice. Really was looking forward to this one.
Wow.
So, you can write what you want, and then you can click preview, and well, nothing.
And I see
there. But if I make this italic, for example, that'll render there. Yeah. What were you saying?
Never lucky. Your name does not check out. You're in time for the demo day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah. So that's. I'm really happy with this. I mean, that's just a really nice. It was a pain when the modal came up to like start writing and then think, oh wait, what was the guy saying that I was responding to? And then you had to close the modal, which means you had to save the text. And anyway, so that is looking much better. The only thing to add to this now that's somewhat urgent is to get the onboarding working with this, because you see I'm on Ethereum and it's not really prompting me to switch to XDAI. And it really should be, because if we're at all targeting people who don't know anything about crypto and they get here and then they click submit, this will pop up, and then MetaMask will be like, well, you don't have enough funds. You don't have, and then it'll also say you don't have $22, which is what we're asking, which is not something you want to tell the new users. Sorry, come back when you have $22, bitch. Jesus. Yeah. So anyway, that's
somebody should tell Vitalik that the internet of money should not cost 5 cents to a transaction.
Yeah,
it should cost $22.
Yeah. Anyway, so it should be easier. The user should be guided through switching to XDAI and using the faucet and everything. So that's just a small thing we need to fix on that. There's probably other small things. We've rearranged this header on the post in general just to look a little better, as well as the way that these replies work. But we also have we're not doing too much interface design right at this moment, or I should say interface changes, because we have a new design that we want to start moving to that looks a lot better. So maybe in a week or 2 or 3, we'll start seeing some of that come out.
You want to? Okay. Sorry, continue.
No, that's all. Go ahead.
Oh, those are the only things you want to demo?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I like that the topic is out of the reply. At least that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We need to get the XDAI stuff in there. Yeah. What did I want to say now about the? Do you want to just quickly show the new designs? I must say I'm very excited about those.
Sure. Let me go find the link if you want to distract our audience while I go find that.
Okay. Well, yeah. So audience, we now have a Scrum Master for the Smoke Signal project specifically. So we have someone cracking the whip on, unfortunately, only one. We have one chief and one Indian at the moment on that team. So we at least have a chief now. We already had a super productive developer there, but hopefully this sort of like streamlines stuff even more. And then the whole process will now be pushed by Chris, who's also doing our marketing at the moment. So yeah, so I'm pretty excited about the increase, hopefully, in momentum we see in Smoke Signal in that regard.
Yeah, and just on that, I mean, what I'm excited about is that frees me up almost completely from actually spending a lot of time on Smoke Signal. So I'm acting as the product owner, which means I basically give direction and say what the priorities are. But I'm spending a lot more time. Well, I have more time for other things, so it's going to allow me to sort of elevate my view and think more long-term strategically. part of which today was spent actually writing a post that I hope to put on Smoke Signal really soon, that kind of lays out our position with, why do we think it's ethical to give a place that anyone can speak, including Nazis? It's the fundamental question that will be asked. And so I write about that and how it's important. I'm actually quite happy with how it came out. I don't know if you read that yet, Skull.
I haven't read it yet.
Well, anyway, we're going to edit it some internally, and then I'll probably share it with the community and get feedback there, and then post it, and maybe even actually post it under Foundry. So since the Foundry treasury is like Foundry's face, and it has an Ethereum address, and Smoke Signal allows any Ethereum address to post. So we can actually post to Smoke Signal as Foundry. So that's really cool. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what Foundry's face looks like. And what's also cool about that is that once governance is implemented for Foundry, then people can actually propose and vote to post something to Smoke Signal as Foundry. So anything that Foundry says on Smoke Signal, will have gone through a DAO proposal and vote in process, which is just yeah.
Okay, now that's very nifty. Yeah, but anyway, I'm also quite excited to have you be free from the internal guts of Smoke Signal. Well, to a very, at least you're still the product owner, so you're still the visionary driving the thing forward, at least, which I like. I must say though, it's just a thought that occurs to me a lot now is that if
hold the thought for a second, I'll just show the design here before we get too far away from that. Yeah, so this is the design that one of our old friends came and gave to us in a fit of inspiration. So this is pretty cool. It just really clarifies everything. I'm not sure that everything here, I'm not sure we would implement everything that's on this screen in Smoke Signal, but there's a lot of really great ideas. I mean, this is just so much cleaner. Yeah, so that's what we're going to start to aim for. Maybe not really sprinting to this because we did just do a redesign. Definitely we want to focus more on user feedback, but this is a really good sort of North Star to aim for when it comes to design decisions, and just kind of aim more for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a thought that I had. I mean, it's a bit of a loose thought, but as we try to find our 100 true fans, for those of you who, like, if you 1,000 true fans, like if you go Google 1,000 true fans, if you can get a niche with 1,000 true fans with excess capital, then you can make a living in that niche. And part of our plan with Smoke Signal is to go find 1,000 true fans for this niche of a thing. Anyway, and we're obviously going to try a bunch of things, and we might have to pivot slightly once or twice inside of how it looks. So my main thinking at the moment is it's either a replacement for Reddit, or it's a it's somewhere between a replacement for, not a replacement, but a decentralized version of Reddit, and maybe even a decentralized version of Medium. I do think that the kind of posts that people might want to make might actually be more towards the Medium side of the argument than towards the what's its face side of the argument, towards the lost my train of thought now, towards the Reddit style. So in other words, people might want to make some sort of that might be the view of the main post, might be something like, oh, this is Medium-esque, and then when you go into the comments, you actually see like a more commenty type function. And anyway, but I mean, there's a lot of ideas for how we could refine the UX there.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. But
they could also bleed into a blog type format where, right now on Smoke Signal, you can look at the homepage or topics or a particular post. There could also be a view pretty easily of just what are all the posts a given user has made, and then that's basically a blog view of the same data. So there's a whole lot we can go, a whole lot of directions we can go. Once we start getting, I think, more feedback and we start seeing more organic use. I mean, that's the key, as I said before. It's developed enough to where if we were to develop more in sort of isolation of user feedback, that we just kind of be flying blind. So it's just important to get that feedback.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I see Quadrilog is here, and I know that Quadrilog has one question under all circumstances for me. But Quadrilog, where's the death contract? Okay. But before I answer that, Quadrilog, give me 1 second. I need to check something out.
I can give you at least part of the answer there. We just heard from the auditor sort of saying, like, sorry, I'm taking so long. We're still waiting on that first quote from him. Well, it's the second quote. It's a quote after we sort of expanded the version of the death contract and added some complexity. So we're now waiting on him for that quote.
Sorry, guys. I live in a, I don't want to call it a dodgy neighborhood, but given that 2 batteries and
But
one,
it is.
it is a dodgy neighborhood. I'm moving.
It's South Africa. South Africa is a big dodgy neighborhood.
Oh, that is true. Sorry. Now I have to like these are South African problems that you sit with. Like whenever you hear the mildest beep on your alarm system, like first of all, you have an alarm system, then you have to go check out like what exactly is going on here. Okay, cool. So that was just my front door blowing open and closed. Anyway, sorry, I just spoke to my neighbor this morning. Yesterday, you know, me and Elena were chatting. We said like, hey, it's really fascinating that they have nice stuff on their porch that hasn't been stolen yet. So this morning I run into the same neighbor and I'm like, hey, how you doing? Everything, yada, yada. She says, oh, she's happy. She's just the crime's getting to her a little bit. And I'm like, oh, we were just commenting that all your nice stuff is there. She's just like, well, they've stolen 2 batteries and 1 scooter from them. They've only been here, I think, like 2 months. So anyway,
So
yeah.
don't go to South Africa. Don't do it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I just said don't go to South Africa. Don't do it. I don't know why I did. I did it for love the second time, but
yeah,
yeah.
the first time for the experience. But anyway, so back to the death contract. All right, so an update on the death contract. We okay, so we heard back from our auditor at the moment. So so he is going to come back with a quote for the actual audit of the contract itself. I onboarded someone to help with the F-sharp testing on the thing, and specifically to do a thing called property testing, where you throw like a bunch of random data at the contract itself. What we might also want to do next is essentially get the auditor, who's also a professional smart contract developer, to consult us just basically on how to maximize, you know, the amount of things that we can throw at that. So so it's still going a little bit slower than I was hoping for, but we are getting tests out. We are actually like getting we are getting to the point where I think the thing can, you know, possibly start flying. My goal with it, I don't know why some people are skeptical about this, but my goal with it is for it to contain on the order of $50 to $100 million. You know, and at $50 to $100 million, you want something resembling quality assurance in there. Yeah, that's basically it. We do have a Trello up. I think at some point I might make the Trello public as well, for the tests and stuff that we are constructing. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, sorry, I'm people can't see the chat messages on the YouTube, right?
No, they can't.
So Quadrilog said, I think a lot of people will be interested in death given the current market. Yes, indeed it will. Yeah. So my thinking is that we probably have about 3 weeks, you know, where beyond 3 weeks, I think we actually, you know, we might run into problems of being too deep into this market. But anyway, yeah, so we're constructing tests. We're going to chat to the auditor as well, just get his input on any additional tests that we need to build. Some of the stuff that I did want to try, which was more elegant and generic ways of testing the entire system, unfortunately did prove to be a little bit unwieldy, because we obviously build on top of other DeFi blocks, and to simulate those DeFi blocks is difficult. It is very, very difficult. So we have to make some assumptions that those things are correct. And then I think what we'll do as well is rely on the obviously the expertise of our auditor, to also like tell us, listen, these sub aspects of what you're using, you know, write tests for them as well. Yeah, that's basically where we are. And yeah, that's pretty much it on the death contract. And then we do have the farm live now. I'm very encouraged to see how well that's working. You know, I think our liquidity went up almost instantaneously with about another $30,000 or $40,000 in total. So that's very, very good. Yeah, our BSC Our BSC farm is also actually, the contracts are deployed, everything is ready. It just wasn't funded because the problem is just the way that PancakeSwap works is when you try to find fry, you'll find fries, which is interesting that there's a thing called fries, but you don't find fry directly. And the only way to get listed there apparently is to do a basically what's called a syrup farm. So you use their syrup interface to actually get stuff done. So we provide them money, and then they hand out these tokens of theirs to actually like help us gain liquidity. And then they put us on the default list. So we just decided that given the popularity of PancakeSwap, we'd rather list there properly and have people be able to find us, then tell people that they have to go to a very obscure sort of like a link. And I think if we started the farm right now, we'd just be handing out cash to, all the existing choir members.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I'd like to go over is the advertising we're doing rather. And on that, I figured I could maybe share my screen and just look through the analytics a bit. And then we can also talk about the Facebook ad and what happened with that. So let me just get those tabs prepared in my little private, my browser that's contained away from all my other information here. Should have done this while you were talking, Skulk.
Say again?
I should have done this while you were talking.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. Well, I'll keep talking. Yeah, I definitely please, like we ran ads on Facebook now. Our thinking is that anything we put on Facebook it's a matter of days until we get banned. So we want to run this crazy high impact ad campaigns on Google and on Facebook because people are probably going to report this for ridiculous reasons. And our first few ads went live in the last 2 days, right? It's been 2 days. It hasn't been longer than that. And the response has been very, very interesting. I think a lot of people have actually clicked through. They've visited the page. They've gone through some of the processes. But geez, like some of the people are very upset at the idea of being able to speak your mind online. They don't like this idea at all. We'll share a screenshot. We'll just I'll read some of the replies and leave out the bad parts.
I'll share it now. I actually have the page up so we can look through these a bit.
Okay.
Let me just get it on the browser. Just a second.
Yeah. Just share that one. Well, we're targeting, and so generally speaking, so the question from Never Lucky is which interests are we targeting on Facebook? So we're looking for the intersection, the Venn diagram between blockchain and freedom of speech.
Yeah. So yeah, we have what the shit is this? It's Parler, but you're charging to encode. Got to respect the grift. You're giving the fascists, I guess.
The fash. Yeah.
Somewhat chat and making some coin in the progress or in the process.
Yeah.
The platform is 40 posts old and it's already occupied by 88 spamming Nazis. Absolutely get fucked. What are you even good for? So there's lots of outrage and hate going on here. But it's also kind of fun to respond to these.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much it's actually mattering in this case because we stopped this post. Because the thing is, this stock photo does have a rather Aryan looking woman on it. So maybe maybe better to change that up a little bit.
You just can't be online in white. It's not.
It's really not okay. So we have another ad that's in production and waiting for approval. That's I don't know. I mean, maybe it'll trigger them a little less, but yeah. And then I wanted to also show you guys, wait, where was it? The analytics, which
the only woman whiter than that blonde is Candace Owens.
I don't even know who Candace Owens is actually.
She's a black conservative, so she's a quite outspoken black conservative, and she has literally been called. There are videos of these Antifa people yelling white supremacist at her.
Yeah,
it's very macabre.
Okay, so here is some analytics. First of all, we see this very nice line up. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's not gargantuan numbers by any means, but it's still nice to see that. You can see roughly where we're hitting. Yeah, what else can we look at? I mean, I suppose one thing to look at is the goals here. once it loads. So I want to see. Oh, here. So here we can see different goals and how many people have reached them. So and we can actually, I think we can sort this by paid traffic, I think. Let me just see. I think that should limit it to, yes, okay. Or maybe not. Chris showed me some way to.
I think we should definitely include him in the in these demo days, and then he can demo this because he definitely worked with a very aggressive plan.
So, okay, yeah, so we'll have to do that. But just for now, I'll just point out, so we've defined certain conversions in the code. So when they connect MetaMask, that's a conversion. We can see 18 people of the traffic that we've gotten have gone there. Let's see, but no one has completed the onboarding yet. And yet people have mined, they made a post and a transaction was mined, although I suspect this is actually traffic from us. So that's why I was trying to narrow it down to the paid traffic so we can see how well that's doing. But maybe we'll just stop sharing this now, and maybe next Friday we can have Chris on to demo that. And we'll have a lot more data then as well. Hopefully some of those more juicier conversions like making a post. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions from the crowd?
Yeah, anything. We have 3 shadowy members of chat here for those on YouTube.
Yeah,
it's cool. I'm comforted when we have shadowy members. It means the hive mind of Foundry is becoming resilient.
Yeah, so a Never Lucky asks when Google Ads smiley face. Yeah, so we will actually be doing Google Ads, but we want to get the conversion funnel properly defined. It looks very well defined, in my opinion, at the moment. So we want to see how hard we can hit with Facebook.
Yeah, and if I could just generalize that a little bit, every sort of mechanism or platform that we advertise on, we're going to be reacting to that and honing our whole process. So that will be changing the site to make it look, the app to make it easier. It'll be figuring out which ads to do. It'll be getting experience about how people react in the Facebook comments. And as I said, I'm working on a post that I want to put on Smoke Signal today, and that's actually mostly a reaction to the responses on the Facebook platform. So the general thing there is we don't want to advertise everywhere at once. Because these will expire. I mean, we're in direct competition with many of the places that we'll be advertising on, and so we want to sort of do them one by one and to some degree exhaust them. And while we're doing that, hone our own process, so that by the time we move from Facebook to Google Ads and then Google Ads to Twitter or whatever the progression is, every time we have refined our process of maximally sort of reaching out and pulling the people in and making sure they actually do the conversions of making a post or spending money somehow.
Yeah. Just a question in terms of the costs of keeping Smoke Signal up. I know that some stuff went wrong with DieHard and that we have to resuscitate DieHard. What is the major components that still prevent the thing from just being able to live eternally on an ENS domain name?
Yeah, there's a few things. It's a long answer. So let me first answer the question that just popped up in the chat, because it'll be a quick one. And I would like to revisit that because it's important for the long-term strategy. So the question in chat is, how is the SEO looking for Smoke Signal? It's a weirdly laggy process to verify SEO is working correctly. It should be that every time a post is made on Smoke Signal, that we have a server that looks at that and adds that to a sitemap, and which is being watched by Google. So in theory, if you write some post, then within some weeks you should be able to search for it and find it on Google. But it takes like weeks for that to reflect, and so I'm still monitoring it, and I'm still tweaking it and trying to sort of verify once and for all that it's working. But I haven't yet gotten to the point where I'm saying, okay, yeah, that's working all the time now. So I mean, you can search for Smoke Signal at least now. When you search for Smoke Signal, our site comes up. which is one of the things that Chris immediately identified as a problem and then also provided a solution to. Yeah. So then, yeah, as far as the way I sort of interpret your question, Skulk, is like, what are the ways in which smoke signal could fail? Because we say it's unkillable, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. My question goes more towards like there are certain aspects of the thing that we rely on somebody else's something or another.
Yeah, yeah.
We depend on someone else's node, for instance, for the ClearNet to be able to see smoke signal.
Yeah.
Right. We depend like that's the one thing. I mean, Infura or Rivet or whatever it is we're using, that's the one thing we have to fund that to keep it running.
So,
you know. So my question is essentially, what are those obstacles, and how do we progressively get rid of them?
Yeah. So the one that, and a lot of these apply to any DApp. So the one that would apply to any DApp is that we use a thing called Rivet. Infura is the more popular one, but they're both JSON API endpoints, or they're provider endpoints. That's the right jargon. Which means that when you go to smokesignal.eth, you see the posts and you know they're coming from Ethereum, but how does your computer actually get it from Ethereum? Well, the website actually contacts Infura or Rivet, which are really just regular sort of centralized servers that have specialized in the service of running their own Ethereum nodes and serving the data. So in theory, if let's say smoke signal gets really big, or there's something else that's offensive on Ethereum, some attacker could go after those services. The reason we're with Infura, the reason we're not with Infura, which you could say is sort of the default option, it's the easy one to use, and instead with Rivet, is that they seem to have a much more comprehensive, let's say, battle plan for when and if that happens. And so that's pretty cool. And another related thing, which is another reason we're on Rivet. So another problem that could happen is we could run out of credits on Rivet. So we're funding Rivet. You buy a certain amount of credits, and when that runs out, it stops serving information to all of our products. So in fact, I think a week or two, the dashboard and the sale were down. It was because we'd run out of money because the alarms for that were misconfigured. That issue, by the way, is addressed now. But the core issue still remains of like, if no one fills that jar up of funds and it gets drained, the interface will stop working. And I think you could think of that as sort of just an economic reality. Unless you have users who have their own Ethereum node on their computer, you're going to have to pay some service to run an Ethereum node and provide that data. But what's nice about Rivet is that when you buy these tokens, it's actually an interaction with a smart contract. So I'm actually talking to their team. It's one of the benefits of them being a new small startup is that they're really responsive. I'm talking to their team about, is it possible for us to allow anyone or any smart contract to fund that, or, sort of our API account? Because then what you could have is you could have an interface like Smoke Signal, and let's say Skulk and I die before we totally decentralize all the controls. So now we have this DApp out there that's running out of money and no one has like the sign-in details to pay the bill. What you could do is you could have the DApp be intelligent enough to detect when that has happened. And then basically the front page could turn into like a homeless guy with a tip jar and be like, I'm out of money, I need money. And you could put in like $5 of ETH or whatever, and that would sort of kick the interface back on for however long. And maybe that would be something you pay that only works for you, or maybe it would work, it would actually fund the whole platform to reboot. But that's certainly technically possible. And I think it's something that, when you talk about dApps being unkillable, I think some solution like that is needed. But as I said, I'm still waiting on Rivet to hear back from that. And then there was another thing on sort of the unkillability, right? So when we give people the link to Smoke Signal, we always give them smokesignal.eth.link. The reason the .link there is that the .link service is another service now that basically does the work of resolving the .eth name. So the .eth name is from the ENS server, ENS or Ethereum Name Service, and that's all run on smart contracts. And let me slow down and explain this a little bit. when someone owns smokesignal.eth, what that means is that they have they have the ownership role in that in a smart contract, and they're allowed to update the IPFS hash on what the content field of that .eth domain is. And so then when you go to smokesignal.eth or smokesignal.eth.link, what's happening in the background is it goes to the .eth smart, it goes to the Ethereum smart contract, it looks up what the last IPFS hash was, and then it goes and gets that information from IPFS. And so the way the .link service fits into all that is it is just a sort of regular server that receives your request. It's a regular HTTP request. It goes to the blockchain, does all that work, and gives you the web page. And that's why that's why that domain works for everyone on every browser, even though the browsers don't really know about the ENS stuff. They don't know about the .eth URL. So the benefit of using that obviously is that everybody can go to that website and use it. The downside is that now we have another centralized entity, the .link service, in the middle there, and that could be attacked. So it's not ideal. If you have a browser that can go directly to .eth domains, I would say use that instead. But they are few and far between, unfortunately. I think even Brave doesn't support it, which is really baffling to me that they wouldn't support that. Yeah, and then I guess the other thing at the very moment is that we have direct manual control over the smokesignal.eth domain. In fact, it's on one of my wallets. So until governance is built and until that's handed to Foundry governance, I'm sort of a central point of failure there. It's not a fatal thing if someone takes control of that, because the interfaces of SmokeSignal would still remain on IPFS, and you can go get them somewhat manually. So, and just to finish that off, I know I've been talking a while, but that's sort of a general principle of all this. I think all of this stuff is, you could sort of say, unkillable enough to where there are attacks that could take it offline temporarily or sort of make it harder to use. But you're never going to delete the post from the blockchain. You're never going to remove the SmokeSignal interface itself from the internet completely. And so there are attacks that make me a little nervous, because it's like, they can deal us a blow, but there's no way they can really kill the project. And especially when when SmokeSignal starts getting attacked at that point, I think we've already won, because with that level of press, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle at that point. So yeah, that's thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Your TED Talk was very amusing. Question from Quadrilog: have you guys considered getting in touch with Igor Barinov? We have actually had a whole interview with Igor. It was one of the coolest things that happened.
Yeah,
he's a very, I must say, I really enjoy Igor. He is he's one of those guys who will make the crypto revolution happen,
that's
in my
right.
opinion.
Yeah, and have plans for if things go off the rails. Yeah, and actually, Quadrilog, give yourself a pat on the back, because in fact, getting in touch with Igor and doing that interview did indeed raise awareness about our project. We actually got a significant market bump from that. It was one of our first where the treasury kind of bumped up, and we're like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sort of took us from the hundreds of dollars a week to the thousands of dollars a week frame, basically. So that was pretty cool. And then in terms of reaching out to them, I did a while back, I did reach out to them when SmokeSignal was sort of I'd say the first version, V1 of SmokeSignal was ready, and they did actually post it to their XDAI blockchain Twitter account. So the XDAI blockchain Twitter account did retweet, hey, SmokeSignal's a free speech thing, yada, yada, yada. And we didn't even really have to do too much trouble for them to do that. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite translated into actual use yet. Just on that topic,
our onboarding was basically missing back then as well.
No. This was when it was on. So this was when the whole XDAI thing was integrated. That's when I went to them and said, hey.
But even the onboarding.
I think the whole thing of the prompting was in at that stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was just before that. But anyway, but yeah, I do think that they are someone we could approach more and more and basically say, listen, we've already bridged our token there. We've listed a bunch of well, obviously all the I mean, all the XDAI posts are going to be on XDAI, but I do think that they're, yeah, that they're basically guys. Yeah, that was Doge. There was the actual Doge from Dogecoin. So, but anyway, yeah. So I do think the XDAI guys and us have a lot in common, you know, philosophically, and I do think that there's a lot we can do to, you know, get more traction on their platform, and there's a lot they can do to help us do the same.
Yeah.
So yeah. So.
Cool. Okay, show the dog at the end. Do you have a
Okay,
dog to show? And then we'll hang up because I think we're
well,
almost at
you make
15
closing remarks and I will find the dog.
Okay, closing remarks. I don't know. I'm just really excited about where it's at. I feel like we're at a sort of a threshold of sorts. We're just starting the marketing, so we're going to be getting some new users and some new outrage with Smoke Signal. Dang, that dog's bigger than when I saw it last.
This dog is much bigger than when anybody saw it last.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty. That's Sakura, right?
Yeah, that's Sakura.
Cool. Alrighty. Okay. Thanks, guys, for showing up.
Thanks,
for the
everybody.
questions. Excited about where we're going. Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.